Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're talking about 5 legal tips that every freelancer needs to know. If you're just seeing my face for the first time, hi and welcome to the channel. On this channel, we talk about everything legal. My name is Joy and I'm a legal practitioner based in Nigeria, and I've been practicing law for over a decade, and I specialize in corporate law, corporate governance, compliance, and family law. So if you're interested in any of those topics, you want to hit the subscribe button and put on your notification bell so each time I post a video, you get notified. Once again, welcome back to the channel. For my old-time subscribers, thank you for staying true to this channel, guys. We're at 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for everybody who has commented, who has liked, who has followed this channel from the beginning. I don't take it for granted. Now let's get right into the video. Now the question is, who is a freelancer? A freelancer is someone who is self-employed, right? Who works independently, with multiple clients on a project by project basis, right? So rather than being a long-term employee of a company. So basically, freelancers are their own bosses, right? They control their own work, they schedule their own rates and schedule their own time to work. They also choose projects to accept and projects to reject. Now, they offer specialized service like, writing, blog writing, graphic design, website design, web developers, front end and back end engineers, UI and UX, and the list is endless, right? So they are referred to as one of the major common features of freelancing is that you get to work remotely. That means you get to work from the comfort of your home. And since 2020, after the COVID pandemic, the rate of freelancing has really, increased. A lot of people, started to work from home, and they have continued ever since then. And that is why I am doing this video. Because you are self-employed, right? There is a high tendency that, you do not even have an understanding of the legal implications of certain things. Now, the first step is, you need to treat your freelance business as a business, not just as a gig or a contract, or a lot of people call it my gig or something like that. You need to treat it as a business. That way, you separate the business from your own personal life. You treat it like if you're going to an office or you have a 9 to 5 or you're running a business, right? You treat it as a business. That means it is very important that you register it as a business. That way, you can properly, separate the business, especially in issues of tax and, profit and expenses. You can say, okay, this money is for the business, this one is for personal use. If you want to file taxes, taxes for business is separate, taxes for myself is also separate. So you want to start treating your freelance gigs as a business, right? Now, the second thing is, if you have started as a freelancer, you want to know that contracts are your best friend. If you haven't already started hugging contracts, start doing it after you watch this video, right? Contracts, having a solid contract, on ground as a freelancer gives both you and the client peace of mind. Although a contract, is not a guarantee that, there nothing bad will happen or that the client will not pay your fee 100%, but at least you can refer to the contract and say, okay, this is what we agreed from the beginning, this is what we said was going to happen, this is how we said it's going to happen. So now I'm going to give you like the major components of a contract, or what you should have in the contract as a freelancer, because having a contract will certainly help you avoid issues in the future, and it will also help you and your client to be able to settle disputes amicably. So one of the things that you must include in your contract as a freelancer is the scope of work, because that's the whole reason why you're even accepting the gig in the first place. The scope of work means that you have to lay out in detail the work that is meant to be carried out. What work are you doing? Is it supposed to be, is it blog writing, or is it social media writing? Or even if it's social media, what kind of social media, marketing or anything like that are you supposed to be doing? How the work is going to be performed. Now, the second thing is you need to have a time frame, a clause for time frame. The time frame has to indicate if it is a one-time project, if it is a continuing project, if it is a retainer, and how long it will take you to complete it? What is the time frame you will use to complete the job? Now, if you go on Upwork, if you're a freelancer, you must have heard of Upwork. If you go on Upwork, you'll see where they'll state that, how long is this project going to take? Is it going to take less than 6 months? Is it going to take 1 year? Is it going to take 3 months? You need to clearly state that in the contract. Another thing you need to state is the deadline. Include deadlines for both you and the client. When are you going to send your first draft? When are you going to start? Will you be needing information from the client? When is the deadline as to when the client is supposed to give you information? We as lawyers, when we send letters, sometimes we also indicate that, you have 7 days for you to accept. You have, 10 or 14 days for you to give us information so that we can commence. That way you can be able to, track, when you're supposed to do your deliverables. Because sometimes it might be the clients that are delaying, not even you. Another clause you need to include that is very important to contract is payment terms, right? You should state exactly your fees. Is it by the hour? Is it, a one-time project? Are they going to pay you as a retainership? Is it continuing? Are they supposed to do like, a first installment or a second installment? How are you accepting payments? What are your bank details? Information like that is very important, because if you don't state it, then how will you get paid? Another thing you need to state also is ownership. Also, can be referred to as intellectual property. For people who are creatives, right? People like, graphic designers, web developers or writers or content creators. Now, you need to clearly state who owns what. If you're doing it for the company or the client, once you do it, are they the owners of it? Can they still be using your content even after you've left? You need to, state all those things. Even if you leave, can you still use that content for also yourself or for another? You need to really state it there. Another information that needs to be there is changes, edits, and drafts. Please make sure you include this, because you don't want to be going back and forth endlessly, right? You need to know how many changes or how many edits can the client make, for things like, blog design or creative work. You need to clearly state it, because sometimes I've seen a lot of people talk about it on LinkedIn, where they say, the client will say has an impossible, desire, and they worked and worked and worked on it, and at the end of the day, the contract is frustrated and they cannot, continue. So you need to clearly state it. How many times can the client edit it? How many times can the client revert back to you, to make changes to the project? If they are going to revert more than certain times, then you need to know how to charge extra for all those kind of edits and changes to the work. That thing is, the last two is commencement. Always put a state. When are you supposed to start? When is it supposed to commence? When they give you an offer letter or an offer of employment, it's usually stated in that employment when is it going to start, but it's not going to state when it's going to end, but at least it's going to state, when you want to when it wants to start. So I always say this, like, if you're preparing a contract or you're doing a contract, make sure that there's always how you enter the contract and how you leave the contract. So the last one is the termination clause. Very important. How the contract will end. What will happen if one person decides that they're tired and they want to go out before the contract actually ends? That's both parties. Who has what after the contract has ended? Then the third legal tip, haven't settled the issue of contracts, right? The third legal tip every freelancer needs, is you need to pay your taxes. As a freelancer, you are a sole proprietor, you are a one-man business, you are the one handling your business. So you are solely responsible for paying your tax. You are solely responsible for paying your taxes. So if you are registered as a company, you want to know that you're in Nigeria, right? So I'm licensed to practice in Nigeria. So this particular information in regards to taxes is for people who are doing business in Nigeria. So if you're a freelancer in Nigeria, you're a Nigerian, you registered that your freelance business, you must report to the FIRS or the IRS. You have to keep track, of what services you are offering. Now, if you're not, the new tax rule says that if you're not earning up to 25 million or 50 million as a company or as a small business, you don't need to file a tax. You are tax exempt. But what about the issue of VAT? For goods and services, you have to pay VAT. So sometimes, when you go to a restaurant, you see that you're paying VAT. The VAT is not part of the food. So if you're a freelancer and you're a Nigerian and you're supposed to be paying VAT, right? You're not supposed to add it to your own fee. What you will do is, let's say you're charging 200,000 for a contract, right? I'm just assuming, I don't know. You will need to add, let's say your tax, right, is 7.5%, because that's the rate of VAT now in Nigeria, is 7.5%. You will calculate the 7.5% of the 200,000 and add it to your bill. So you let your clients know in the invoice that this is your tax, and then this is your main bill. So you want to keep that in mind. The tip is you should have a proper invoice. As a freelancer, there's always this temptation of, anyhow, or the relationship you have with the client, you just take it for granted and send your information through WhatsApp, or just send them an email and say, this is my account, details. That is very wrong. As a freelancer, you need to have an invoice. If you don't already have, an invoice as to, your type of services, what you offer, and your rates, then you need to go and start doing it now. So it's very professional for you to have, an already laid down invoice. If you don't, you can prepare one and send to the client with your account details, your information, and how they are supposed to pay you. Now, the fifth one and the last one is your website needs to be properly protected. It needs to be legally protected. Now, if you have a website or you have a blog, you need to make sure that you have, the legal protections in place. And this is usually the place that, clients will come to. For some people who are already professional in the business, they already have their websites. Some virtual assistants already have websites. Web developers, they have, their websites already. So that's where clients will want to check to see your portfolio or what you have done. So you need that to give them a very good impression that you are a professional who knows what they are doing, right? So your website needs to have a privacy statement. Now, if you are collecting people's personal information, either through cookies or through Google Analytics, you are required by law to have a privacy statement, letting your visitors know what you collect, how you collect it, and what you will do with that information. This statement is a very important, aspect of having a website. I know there's a long list, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to stop there. Now, if you are a freelancer, you want to have these legal tips in mind just to protect yourself for the future, and also to help you grow your freelance business. Helpful. Don't forget to subscribe, put on your notification bell, so each time I post a video you get notified. I'm going to be putting a sample of a freelance contract, a general freelance contract, where you can input whatever you want to input in the description box. So you want to click that. If you're a freelancer or you want to go into the freelance community space, you want to click the link in the description and get that contract. Thank you guys for watching.